My name is Anna Castro, and I teach Spanish at McDonough 35. Today, I'm going to talk about a very specific, often overlooked group of students. Those students are deaf, blind, and also English language learners. My focus is on how we can reform educational policies and testing to better support them. To start, let's define ELLs, English language learners. According to WIDA, these are students who are in the process of acquiring English and who speak another language at home. This category already requires support, but when combined with sensory disabilities like deafness or blindness, those needs become far more complex. Language proficiency testing, like ELPT, evaluates a student's ability to listen, speak, read, and write in English. It's important for placements and accountability, but the format often assumes typical sensory and cognitive abilities. For students with significant cognitive disabilities, Louisiana uses ELPT Connect. While it's more accessible, it still tests all four domains. Exemptions can be made based on a student's individualized education plan. The system is still largely one size fits all. Here's where policies fall short. Laws like ESA and IDEA promote inclusivity, but rarely address students who are both ELLs and have sensory disabilities. These students often don't get the accommodations they need, like ASL, Braille, or screen readers, and that leads to misrepresentation in data assessment. So here are the case studies. Um, Here we have Stephen, seventh grader who was born in rural Mexico. He lost vision in fifth grade. Teachers described him as bright and motivated, but because of limited access to education in Mexico, they came back to support. Stephen is fluent in Spanish, but does not speak English and doesn't have any writing samples. Um, for support, he gets a human reader. His academic skills he's potentially high, uh, but again, due to the lack of history of education, because of his vision loss, there's no they don't have concrete data, so he is still required to take the ELPT, but not eligible for exemption because he doesn't have any. He has no cognitive disabilities. So Stephen has to take a reading portion, and this is what it would probably look like for Stephen. The human reader can read the questions and maybe even describe the page, but that's no longer testing his reading. It's more of a listening domain that's getting tested. Next, we have Helen. Helen is a fifth grade student who's both deaf and blind. Her parents only speak Spanish at home. They don't feel comfortable sending her away to the residential school. Her only communication is through behavior. She has no formal language and she's not proficient in English nor Spanish. Um, she does have some support. She has a one-on-one para, but the para makes sure she just follows her routine. Despite lack of proficiency, she's still required to take the ELPT Connect, um, but she has the exemption of listening and speaking. So she still has to take the writing portion, and this is what it would look like for Helen to take that writing portion. Um, someone would read it to her, and then they would have to wait for her to type something or have said something for them to type. So Helen's test, if not all, is blank. And last we have Ludwig. Ludwig is a fifth grade student who is deaf. Ludwig's parents did send him to the residential school. He is proficient in ASL, but not fluent in Vietnamese. So he is required to take the ELPT test simply because his Vietnamese is spoken at home. But ASL has completely different grammar from English. So testing him in English doesn't fully reflect his ability. And so how did we get here? All the students, when they register to enroll in school, have to take a home language survey. And so if another language is spoken, They come to here, and then the interview indicates that the student predominantly speak English. They don't have to take the get enrolled into ELL services. But if the students is not predominantly speaking English, they are then tested through the English language proficiency screener. And if they don't pass the proficient, then they're placed into ELL services. And so this is a close up of that. So the problem that's where the problem is. It's not really addressing where okay, you may not speak English, but are there any reasons why you aren't able to speak English? And so that is part of the recommendations that I have, is that we go and we add that, give them part of a flow chart, ask, is your student deaf or blind? And if they are, uh, do follow the flow. The student is proficient in ASL and Braille, so then they can go ahead and take that English and proficiency screener with those accommodations that were built into that. And so if they don't need to take these services, they can just go ahead and schedule the students with regular SPED uh, support. And if not, if the student is deaf and blind, then they wouldn't really qualify for ELL services and be directed to a deaf blind program. But if the student is blind, then they could take the ELPS with reading and writing exemptions, or if the student is deaf, to take the ELPS with the listening and speaking exemptions. So, I'm sorry. Okay, so training, we also recommend training for both ESL and special education teachers is key, especially on sensory disabilities. We can use flexible formats like interviews, portfolios, and visual or tactical aids. Collaboration with disabilities organizations can guide this work, along with establishing clear universal accommodation standards. And these are some more recommended solutions. Bibliography, and then thank you to all the educators and students and families who shared their stories.